crowd is going wild. A brand new season, that championship style. Big plays are coming, the rivalry's real. Get ready for that Pigskin Frenzy feel. It's college football, yeah, you know the deal. This is Pigskin Frenzy. Pigskin Frenzy.
And we are fired up. And when I mean fired up, I mean, listen to the new music, listen to the new intro, and watch the new intro. If you're watching on YouTube, listening on audio, listen to that new hit, that new banger for Pigskin Frenzy, that new song. It gets you fired up, gets you ready and rock and roll. We're going to pull a Rock here. The Rock, when The Rock would come out at wrestling, he would go and hit his arm, feeling the goosebumps. That's how you feel when you listen to that and get ready to rock and roll with Pigskin Frenzy on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We are fired up. And we have more spring outlooks, as promised. We're going to continue on with our spring outlooks. We have 10 spring outlooks, 10 spring results, a combined 20 episodes for spring football. We're not even in the thick of things yet. We're still getting into the thick of things with spring football coverage. And we have another all SEC slate coming for you, just as we said at the end of Tuesday's episode. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Pigskin Frenzy on this beautiful Thursday afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I'm Joel Norris, and whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on Podbean, Spotify, or Apple, or tuning in on True Voice Digital, a big thank you for taking some time out of your Thursday to just sit back, watch, and listen to some college football coverage presented by me. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like each episode, leave comments down below, Spotify, Podbean, or Apple. All you got to do is just share around with others and follow on there as well as tune in to True Voice Digital. Every channel, inspiring faith and inspiring content on True Voice Digital, as well as X, Instagram, and TikTok at Pigskin_Frenzy. Follow, like the pages there. You're going to get episode updates, news and highlights from across college football, and takes from the prodigy of college football. Yours truly, me. Guys, we also have the website, www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. We have about 95,000 channel views, 95,000 views on YouTube. A big thank you for tuning in each and every Tuesday and Thursday, and about to have 6,800 all-time listeners across all audio platforms. A big and special thank you to you guys for tuning in each and every Tuesday and Thursday. Without you guys, we would not be doing this, and we would not be just talking and giving our thoughts in college football and being college football media without you guys. So a big thank you to you guys. And not only that, a huge and special thank you, obviously, to our Lord and Savior, Jesus. Because without Jesus, we would not be in college football media. We give him all the glory, all the praise. This is all for him, and we're doing it for his gain. The most important thing is to spread his name across all platforms, and we're doing that with Pigskin Frenzy. We give him all the glory, all the praise. And it's without him, we would not be in college football media, and we would not be fulfilling our calling by the Lord, be spreading not just college football talk and just talking about college football for fun, but not only that, just to spread his name and exalt his name above all. Guys, it's the best decision you could ever make in your life, coming to know Jesus. If you want to come to know him, contact me, X, Instagram, and TikTok at Pigskin_Frenzy, as well as the website, www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. Home and About Me page below, there's a contact info and name and email, and you can contact me there as well. It's the best decision you can ever make in your life. We love him, and we give him all the glory and all the praise for delivering us in college football media and letting us spread his name across all platforms and every show in college football media and talk. Guys, spring football, and we are continuing on with our conversation, our spring outlooks. We'll roll on, and we have an all SEC slate. Another all SEC slate. We did one last Thursday, and it was Missouri, Florida, Tennessee, and Auburn. Now we have Georgia, Texas, Oklahoma, and Texas A&M. We had to do one. Last year we did it. We did Georgia, Texas, Oklahoma, and A&M all on the same show. So we're going to kind of keep that theme this year and just do it all in one show. A lot of interesting things happening with these four teams, and that's why we're doing spring outlooks on them. Like I said, we're breaking it down into editions, and we're going to keep on breaking it down into editions. I just think it's the best way and easiest way to deliver that content to you guys. And it's going to be easy to see, what you guys like and how you guys feel about it. So I'm going to start bringing out some polls here shortly and asking the audience and viewers, what do you guys want to hear? Not just from spring outlooks and in each episode of Pigskin Frenzy, but what do you guys want me to talk about for you guys? And not only that, what do you want to hear my thoughts on? I think spring outlooks, like which teams you want me to do a spring outlook on and which teams that you want me to discuss. I know Ole Miss was a one that was kind of recommended to me as well. We're going to do a spring outlook on Ole Miss here in a couple of weeks. And I know that Miami was one, and we're going to do one on Miami here come Tuesday. So we're fired up about that. But we're going to keep on rocking and rolling. We want to hear from you. So comment and message me. X, Instagram, and TikTok, and comment and subscribe and follow on all platforms. YouTube for sure. Comment down below on each episode on YouTube just to talk and just to see which teams you want to see next that we do for spring outlooks. And not only that, just in the future for future springs, what are teams you want to see us do for these type of shows? Guys, we're pumped, we're fired up, we're ready to rock and roll, and man, we have a doozy. Let's go down to Athens and let's talk about the Georgia Bulldogs. Man, what a season that it started out for in 2025. They were, top 5, I believe, to start out the season, and they were rocking and rolling. Then they lost to Alabama first game. It was week 5. I believe it was their conference opener. Week 5, lost to Alabama at home, and then they went through the season kind of hungry and played kind of hungry as well. In a very battle-tested minded team, they played Ole Miss in a huge score fest between two teams in Athens. Georgia won that game. Late in the fourth quarter, won that game. And then all of a sudden, they go all the way back to the SEC championship and win in the SEC championship against Alabama in a rematch against Alabama. And then they go to the playoff and lose to Ole Miss in a Sugar Bowl quarterfinal rematch. So the Sugar Bowl twice for them has been kind of their kryptonite. They lost to Notre Dame a couple of years back. Then they lost this past season to Ole Miss. So the number 3 spot in a bye spot for them has not been there. It's not been the best of luck for the Bulldogs, but the 12-team playoff is still kind of eluding them when they can't get out of their first game, it seems like. Now let's see if they can try to figure it out and try to get out of their first game in the 2026 season. The best thing about Georgia, because they had a good season, but they want to try to make another run at a national championship. Can they get it done in the 12-team playoff? Can they get out of the bye, or can they just make a run at it, right? That's what a lot of teams are, at least the past few seasons for Georgia, everyone's starting to question Georgia a little bit on. Can they make it past the opening round, and can they make a strong run in the playoff again? Can they do it? I think that's what a lot of people and a lot of spectators are questioning about the Bulldogs. To me, Georgia, probably at the top of the SEC once again. And this is me talking in spring. We can rewind this clip. Today is March 19th. 2026, we can rewind this episode back in, June. When we're in June, we have a time jump to June when we're doing our SEC conference standing projections, or in early July, our conference standing projections for the SEC. When we do those, we can talk about how I think Georgia's probably a top team in the SEC going into 2026, because they are. And a lot of people are going to say, dude, really? Come on, man. You're again with Georgia. I know. But the thing is, man, they keep winning the SEC championship. They've 3-peated the SEC championship before. So, and they're trying to go for a 4-peat, it seems like. So, they've made, I believe, 5 SEC championship game appearances, I believe. If I'm not mistaken, 5. So, yeah, they could go for a 6 and go for a 4-peat in Atlanta this season. Georgia is just ruling the SEC. So, of course, you're going to sit and say, oh, Georgia's in the thick of things. It seems like, at least conference title-wise, they're always in the thick of things, right? Georgia's spring game is April 18th. So, they started spring practice already, April 18th. There's a lot of questions, especially in terms of certain position groups that you can be concerned about with Georgia, but at the same time, you're like, well, you get concerned about Georgia, then they go out there and prove you wrong, and then you're like, well, okay, then now what, right? So, April 18th in Athens, Sanford Stadium is their spring game. We're going to get spring results on them as well. To me, for me, here's what I just feel, if that makes sense, and what I want to kind of see from them this spring heading into the fall. Gunnar Stockton is improved last season. I think that's the number one thing. A lot of people are going to say Gunnar Stockton's the man. They placed him ahead of Sam Levitt. I think Gunnar Stockton's good. I don't know if I placed him ahead of Sam Levitt. I think Gunnar Stockton's a good quarterback. I do want to see him take that next step and develop even more. I think that's the number one thing I want to see out of the spring for Georgia. And a lot of people are going to think, are you insane? I mean, but I think I want to see he's entering his second full season as the starter. I want to see him take that leap and be even better. Because I know he can be better. I know he's a good quarterback. I know he can be even better. I think there were some moments in certain games to where you look and you're like, he could be better, right? He can win them those games. I want to see that type of Gunnar Stockton. I want to see that Gunnar Stockton just take effect and go out there and win those type of games, right? Those big-time games. I want to see the leap. I want to see him take that big leap to where, okay, I may be a Heisman finalist. Maybe I'm the guy that changes the whole game for this Georgia team. That's what I want to see in Gunnar Stockton this spring as we head into the fall. So number one, the improvement of Gunnar Stockton even more. That's what I want to see. That's number one. I think number two for me would be the receiver room. I think wide receiver wise, I mean, you have London Humphreys coming back. You have Isaiah Canyon coming back as well, or transfer coming in, Isaiah Canyon, Sokovie White Helton coming in as well. Those are the veteran type receivers for Georgia. Other than that, you got some young guys in there at receiver because you lost Zachariah Branch, you lose Dylan Bell. The receiving core is pretty much, even though the veterans are still veterans, they're still a little bit young as well. So you're looking at this team, you're thinking, okay, who can step up besides just a London Humphreys, besides just a White Helton, besides just as Isaiah Canyon, who can step up at the receiving core and help out Gunnar Stockton and help make plays with him. So I think, to me, that's the number two thing that I want to see out of Georgia during the spring as we head into the fall. The receiver room and what the depth of the receiving core is going to look like for Georgia, because I think that's the biggest thing on offense that's being replaced. You got Chauncey Bowens coming in at the running game. You got Nate Frazier still there as well at the running game. So you're really, Nate Frazier, your primary back again. Chauncey Bowens back, rotating in and out with him. It's still not going to be terrible at the running back spot for them. So running game, they're going to be a lot better. They ran the ball a lot better last year. I think they can probably run the ball better again. We'll see. But I think the number two thing, position group wise on offense is the receiving core for Georgia. So that's number two for me for the Dogs. Last but not least, I want to see edge rusher, because usually at the edge spot for Georgia, it's usually been pretty good. I think last year was kind of a dip in performance in terms of like sack total in 2025. I want to see if the edge rushers step up coming up on defense. So who steps up at the edge rusher spot for them? I know that they're utilizing transfer additions to kind of elevate that pass rush a little bit. I want to see what's going to happen with Georgia's pass rush on defense, especially in the spring as we head into the fall. So for me, those are really the three things that I want to see for Georgia as we head into the fall. The main three things that I think really need to be worked on heading into the fall if you're Georgia. Now, I think offensive line, maybe, but offensive line, I'm not as concerned about that as much as I am with the pass rush, the receiving core, and really the development of Gunnar Stockton, honestly. So those are really the three things that I'm looking forward to in terms of Georgia. I think Georgia's still going to be at the top of their game in the SEC. I'm not really worried about Georgia as much, but those are the three things that if they don't really kind of keep in touch and keep into effect, they may can drop a couple of games that no one's expecting, and maybe a shock. A shock part of it is it could cost them a spot in Atlanta. So we'll see what happens there with Georgia. Number one, the development of Gunnar Stockton. What I want to see out of Georgia is how is he going to, take that next leap in his second full season starting at quarterback for them. Number two, I want to see the depth of the receiving room and who else is going to step up besides a London Humphrey and besides an Isaiah Kenyon, who just now transferred in to Georgia. Then number three is the pass rush. What's that going to look like, and who's going to step up edge rusher-wise on defense for the Bulldogs? Those are the three things that I want to see for Georgia. Their spring game is on April 18th. Coming up, and we will have spring results on Georgia in a few weeks' time as we wrap up our spring football coverage with them. So that's what I want to see out of Georgia, and I cannot wait to see their spring game and watch them and watch their film and highlights as well during their spring. Like I said, as we wrap up on Georgia for our spring outlook on Georgia, and I'm not too concerned about Georgia. I'm concerned about those three things, and I am. But it seems like every time that we are, quote-unquote, concerned about Georgia, they end up proving us wrong, right? So I just want to wait and see what happens with the Dogs. So Georgia Bulldogs, that's our spring outlook on Georgia. The next team that we're going down with, we have three more to go. Going down to Austin, and we're going down to Texas. And it is Texas's third season in the SEC. And we have, another guy entering his second full season at quarterback is Arch Manning, the return of Arch Manning. He's coming back. I did not know why people thought he was going to enter the draft in 2026. Didn't think that was going to happen at all. I thought 2027 or 28 was more likely. But here we are. He's entering his 2026 season as a starting quarterback for this team. First part of the season, kind of iffy. Around the Red River rivalry and the rest of the back half of the season, that's when Arch Manning kind of started, getting into his own in those bigger time games and played really well down the stretch against quality opponents like Texas A&M, like Michigan in big time games. He started playing really well and started playing like the quarterback that we know that Arch Manning could be. So now the hype is back with Arch Manning. And now what's so good about that is he's got I wouldn't say, at least on offense, kind of more weapons around him. And I think that's even more dangerous heading into this year. Last year, they had the number one recruiting class, and all those guys who are still there from that number one recruiting class are even better and have more experience there. So now they're going to step up. You get two transfers coming in at running back with Raleek Brown and Hollywood Smothers coming in at the running back spot. So two versatile backs on top of the highly touted top transfer wide receiver in the portal from this 2026 cycle was Cam Coleman from Auburn. He is a part of Texas. He's your immediate wide receiver one. And then Wingo is still there, who was your wide receiver one last year. It's kind of like a wide receiver 1B, right? There's a 1A and 1B. He's like your 1B. So you got two dangerous receivers. You have two versatile running backs. You lose Parker Livingstone to Oklahoma, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit. It kind of stinks to lose him, but if you're Texas, it's not really too bad, honestly. I mean, tight end wise, you look okay as well. So it's the offensively, you look a lot more dynamic. I think defense, you got to replace some guys, but you still got Colin Simmons on the edge. Texas should be at least top 5 heading into the preseason. To me, they're in my top 5, Texas is. It would not shock me at all if they were top 5 week 1 in August, early September. In the preseason, in the week 1 preseason polls, would not shock me. And when the first set of rankings come out, that they're in the top 5. Or at least top 10, because they should be, honestly. On paper, they look prime and ready to finally make a playoff run in the 12-team playoff again. Finally. And they already did it in the first go-round. They already did They already did. They made it to the semifinal, but with Arch Manning in tow, they can finally try to make a huge run in the playoffs. So, wasn't the best of seasons last year. They lost only 3 games. They had a 9-10 win season last year. Missed the playoffs, just missed it. Went to the Citrus Bowl, but now they're primed and ready with, like I just mentioned, a loaded team on paper once again to try to make that run. So, top team in the SEC once again. Probably going to be a top team on my conference standing projections as well. Texas is back and ready to rock and roll. Steve Sarkisian is ready to rock and roll with this team. Now, I think it's really, interesting to see. I think, to me, a huge storyline is that Will Muschamp is back as the defensive coordinator for Texas, and I think that's really, to me, the number one place where you do go for a spring outlook on Texas. So let's kick off our spring outlooks. Number one, spring outlook on Texas, the number one thing is the defense. How is the defense going to look under Will Muschamp? Are they going to look more aggressive heading into the fall and during the spring and heading into the fall? Or is it going to be about the same? Or how is the change going to look now that Will Muschamp's back? I know Will Muschamp was at Texas before. Will Muschamp was a pretty aggressive defensive coordinator. How is it going to look heading into the fall? And how is their defense going to look in the fall as well and throughout the spring as well? Is the game plan going to be a little bit different? What's that going to look like? So early on, what's Will Muschamp's defense going to look like at Texas in this go-round? That's the number one thing that I'm looking out for Texas. Number two, honestly, would be, if you want to look at position battles, the secondary spot is honestly a key thing that you want to look at if you're talking about the defensive side of things. Secondary spot, free safety, especially with Michael Taft is no longer there, but you still got Xavier Philosime and Jordan Johnson Rebel in there competing for the free safety spot, replacing Michael Taft. So out of those two guys, who gets that spot and who's the primary starter in that safety spot in the secondary position? So who's going to take that leap, replacing Michael Taft in the secondary's position? So to be that dynamic playmaker in the secondary spot. So that's number two for me for Texas, and who's going to be that dynamic playmaker in the secondary for Texas. I think number three, honestly, and this is just me, right? I know that they are two highly talented transfer running backs, but I want to see what the running game is going to look like with Smothers and Brown. I think that's very interesting to me. I think a lot of people are like, development of Arch Manning, anybody? Yeah, we're going to see a bit about that, but that's a typical thing that you want to see out of the outlook for Texas. I want to see about the running game. I want to see how the running game is going to look. Who's going to take that leap as the primary back between Brown and Smothers? I know they're both going to play, and I know they're both really dynamic and good, but I want to see who's going to take that leap and be the primary back. And not only the primary back, I want to see what's going to happen in terms of just being consistent, stable in the running game. Because I think the running game was a little bit consistent last year, but not as consistent as previous years, and I want to see if they can finally find that consistency in the running game this year, especially. So that's the third thing I want to see: consistency in the run game, and who's going to be that primary back out of Brown and Smothers for Texas heading into the fall. So those are really the three things that I want to see from Texas as we enter the fall and as we're here gearing up for spring. That's our spring outlook really on Texas. Honestly, those are the three things that I want to see. Number one, the defense, and how's it going to look under Will Muschamp there. The secondary spot is going to be that dynamic playmaker in the secondary, especially at free safety, now that Michael Taft is no longer there. And then number three, consistency in the run game, and who's going to be that primary back for Texas, whether it's Raleek Brown or Hollywood Smothers in the running game. So their spring game is April 18th. Saturday, April 18th, the same as Georgia's and same as others as well. It seems like all these teams have April 18th spring games, but April 18th is their spring game. They're having a spring game this year. Last year they did not. This year they are having a spring game. So it's going to be very interesting to see in Darrell K. Royal, Texas Memorial Stadium in Austin, how their spring game will turn out. We will have the spring results on Texas then in the next few weeks. I think, to me, for Texas, they are still on paper probably the best team entering the SEC. Just like last year, we had that hype train on Texas, and we had that train of, okay, they're the best team entering the week. Entering week 1, they're probably going to win the SEC championship. I will say this on paper, yes. I will say we will probably be cautious about it this go round because of what happened last year. But I still think that they're pretty much at the top of the food chain of the SEC along with Georgia. I really do. So, that's the number. The 3 things that we want to see out of Texas entering the spring. So we were gonna, see what happens in their spring game and in the rest of their spring practices. That is our spring outlook on the Texas Longhorns. 2 more teams, and it's, speaking of Texas, it's 2 of their rivals as who we're wrapping up with. Their 3rd team that we're talking about is their main rival, the Oklahoma Sooners. Let's go out to Norman, Oklahoma, and let's talk about the Oklahoma Sooners. What a very interesting team last year they were. Starting off, they were very interesting because the hype was around them, especially during the offseason last year, with John Mateer coming in from Washington State, along with Ben Arbuckle as the OC coming in from Washington State. After a season in 2024, going into 2025, you're looking like, okay, if Brent Venables doesn't get this turned around, it's going to be a bad time for him, right? That he needs this season. Sure enough, the hype was around them. The offense was going to be changed. It's going to be a lot more dynamic, a lot more RPO and run schemes and design quarterback runs and zone runs, right, and read options and a lot of flashiness, right? And we saw that. The concepts were a little bit more simpler, and we saw that early on in the season. John Mateer throwing the ball quite well with Isaiah Santana and Deion Burks, and you had a lot of those guys helping out John Mateer early on in the game. The running game needed to be a little bit better as well, but you still provided some of that relief early on in the season with some of those RPO concepts. Then, all of a sudden, John Mateer gets hurt, and then you're thinking, oh no, literally, oh no. It was after the Auburn game. The Auburn game is when the offense started kind of being like, okay. Auburn's defense was not all that bad with DJ Durkin, but at the same time, you're thinking, if Ben Arbuckle and John Mateer and all of it's really dynamic, they would probably have scored 40-plus points, right? And then Mateer gets hurt. He has a thumb and hand injury, a really big one. They're questioning whether he's going to come back, probably until like November, honestly. And then he does make a comeback, and it's week 7 for the Red River rivalry, Red River Showdown or Shootout, whatever you want to call it, the Red River rivalry, and against Texas. And I picked Oklahoma to win that game. Texas smoked Oklahoma in that game, and they smoked them. And when I mean smoked, it was all Texas, the whole entire game. A lot of them questioned, including myself, whether they rushed John Mateer back too quickly, which it seemed like they did, because throughout that whole second half of the season, Oklahoma's offense has not really been the best. It's been just kind of survive and conquer, but Oklahoma's defense took the cake. Brent Venables was the defensive coordinator, the play caller there, and that defense was all over the place, just causing chaos for teams, and Oklahoma's defense was the ones beating teams in each game. They lost to Ole Miss, but they survived the rest of the games to make it into the college football playoff. They ended up playing Alabama in a rematch. They lost that game after a 17-point lead they had. They blew that 17-point lead, and Oklahoma ended up losing that game to Alabama at home in the first round, but they made the college football playoff. So, 10-3 season, made the college football playoff. Kind of survive and conquer mode there. Can Oklahoma repeat what they did last year, but do it even better and make a deeper run into the college ball playoff with Brent Venables. John Mateer's back, so he's back. Is he fully healthy? Now, that's another thing that we're going to talk about here in a little bit. Arbuckle, he's also back. So they're running it back. Isaiah Santanga, also back at the receiver spot. So they're bringing back some key guys. Xavier Robinson, back at the running back spot. So to me, these are some pieces that they really needed, coming back for this team. Can them try to gear up and try to make another run at the college football playoff once again, if you're OU. So, Oklahoma and the offense there for Oklahoma. We're going to get to that here in a little bit. Their spring game is April 18th at 1 Eastern, 12 Central. So April 18th, another April 18th game is Oklahoma spring football, April 18th. So that's their spring game, is April 18th. So as we get into our spring outlooks for Oklahoma, as I kind of briefly recap their season, for me, there's a bunch of questions. We're only narrowing it down to 3 points that we want to see. But the number one thing that I want to see is John Mateer fully healthy. That's number one. Is he fully healthy? Is he going to look like how he did before he got injured? And is he going to be more of a dynamic quarterback, especially in the throwing game, not just the running game, the throwing game? I think that in the Alabama playoff game, they ran a lot of QB design runs. I think, yes, John Mateer needs to run those plays wholeheartedly. I also think they need to run those plays at a certain time frame. And what I mean by certain time frame, I mean, hey, maybe let's pick and choose when we can run the QB design plays. Let's just dial it back a little bit. I would say, can we utilize him in the throwing game a lot more? That's a huge thing as well. I want to see what's in John Mateer's repertoire, and I also want to see if he's fully healthy. The full-on development of John Mateer. Are we going to get the John Mateer that we got at Washington State? I think we did it first, and in the second half of the season, it was kind of I know you could probably argue that because of the injury, but I want to see, are we going to get the full-on John Mateer that we saw at Washington State? That's the number one thing that I want to see for Oklahoma as they head in to 2026. That's the number one thing for Oklahoma. Number two for me, I want to see, and it's very interesting, I think defensively, honestly, I think the defensive depth, I think that's a big thing as well. That's the number two thing I want to see. Yes, they do have a lot of guys there as well. They have Reggie Powers. They have, Taylor Wine at the edge, Jaden Jackson. So they have these guys on the defensive side of things, right, that are certified starters that are really, really good. I mean, Kip Lewis at linebacker, Cole Sullivan at linebacker, Reggie Powers at linebacker. They got the Bowen brothers at the secondary spot. Their defense is loaded, and they're bringing back some guys on defense, so they're bringing back a lot of talent. Yes, I'm going to say this, though. Besides those starters, the defensive depth is the thing for me. On defense, are they going to have the pieces behind those guys to kind of rotate in and out and keep the defense afloat? Defensive depth is a big thing for me with Oklahoma. I want to see if they can keep that defensive depth going. So number two, the depth behind the defense for Oklahoma. That's the number two thing that I want to see from them this spring and as they head into 2026. Number three, very interesting one as well. I think offensive line is a good one. Yes, I think the offensive line is going to be much better than I anticipate. I think the tight end spot is what I'm looking at right now. Yes, they have Hayden Hansen and Rocky Beers from Colorado State coming in and transferring to retool the position. Other than that, who's going to take that leap as tight end one out of those two? But is there anybody else in the room that could step up at the tight end spot? So I think that's the number three thing that I want to see from Oklahoma is the tight end spot. What's the tight end spot going to look like? Because I know how they like to use the tight ends in the offense. So, no, that's the number three thing that I want to see from Oklahoma is the tight end spot. I'm very intrigued and curious of what the room's going to look like with Hayden Hansen and Rocky Beers there. And I want to see if either one of them is going to take a leap in spring and be that bona fide number one tight end for the Oklahoma Sooners on offense in 2026. So those are really the three things that I want to see from Oklahoma. Number one, John Mateer. How's he doing? Is he fully healthy? Are we going to get to Washington State John Mateer coming in for a full-on season? Number two, what's the defensive depth going to look like for Oklahoma besides those bona fide starters, because they are loaded on defense, but what's the defensive depth going to look like behind that? And then number three, who's the number one tight end out of Hayden Hansen and Rocky Beers from Colorado State, the Colorado State transfer there. So those are the three things that I want to see from Oklahoma in the spring and in 2026. Their spring game is April 18th, and I'm curious to see how they're going to, respond and try to come out and play and gear up as they head into the fall. So that's my spring outlook on Oklahoma. We will have spring results on Oklahoma within the next few weeks. Last but not least, before we wrap up, we have Texas A&M on tap going into College Station. Man, what a season they had. They were a bona fide team as well, undefeated all the way until the last game of the regular season. They ran through everyone, it seemed like, on their schedule. They just ran through everybody. They, week 3, played Notre Dame, had a big win there. Played teams like LSU, blew them out. Almost had a scary loss against South Carolina. Had one of the best comebacks I've probably ever seen in the SEC in that game. Ended up beating South Carolina. They ended up beating Missouri and just running through everybody. With Marcel Reed in that offense, Mike Elko was doing a tremendous job week after week getting the Aggies prepared each and every game. They made it all the way until the Texas game, and they ended up losing on Black Friday, losing just one game shy away from making their first ever SEC championship game appearance. And it came slipping through their fingers, and they lost that game. They go to the playoff opening home. They had a home first round game against Miami at home, and they lost last second 10-3 in a very low score and windy game. They lost to Miami and lost in the first round of the college football playoff. It was a remarkable season for Texas A&M, though. A lot of people and a lot of spectators, kind of me included, before the season started, thought that A&M was going to be a dark horse, but didn't really think A&M was going to be that type of team to go all the way to the first round of the college ball playoff. We didn't expect a CFP appearance from Texas A&M, but they gave us that. They gave us a CFP appearance in 2025. So a phenomenal season and a better than expected season from Texas A&M. So how do they combat that? How do they combat that and do what Mike Elko did in his second season at Texas A&M? Can they go beyond expectations again and exceed that in his third year as Aggies head coach? Can they do that? We will have to see. Man, can they make an SEC championship game appearance for the first time in their tenure as an SEC conference member? So it's going to be very interesting to see what's going to happen with Texas A&M, honestly. I think program-wise, they're top 15 in the country in college football, with resources to the nines, with facilities to the nines, the budgeting, the NIL fund and budget, just to the nines. It's just one of the best in college football. It really is. I'm curious to see how everything's going to shape up for them in 2026. Marcel Reed back at quarterback for them. Then you also have the receiving core with Isaiah Horton coming in from Alabama. You have Super Mario Craver coming back there. Bethel Roman gone. You had Casey Concepcion gone, both off to the NFL. The spring game is April 18th as well at 1 p.m. Central, 2 Eastern in Kyle Field. All the games that I mentioned are all on April 18th. So all four of these teams are on April 18th. But you have that, and you have those pieces there for Texas A&M. And just kind of briefly recapping everything, I think there are some things that when you look at their spring heading into 2026, they can definitely work on. I think partially some of those for me. I think the passing game is going to remain strong. I think overall, Marcel Reed is the bona fide starter. He should start for Texas A&M. He is their guy. I think this kind of segues into the number one discussion that I want to have. I think Marcel Reed is a good quarterback. I want to see how much more he develops. I think and develops in a big way. And when I mean develops in a big way, I question his ability in big games. I think that there are some big games where he played well in. Again, Notre Dame. Notre Dame was a huge game where he played well in. That's one. Besides Notre Dame, I also want to see, honestly, how well he plays in other big-time games, like a Texas, like a Miami in a playoff game. You know what I mean? How well does he perform in those type of games? I want to see the continued development of Marcel Reed. I think that's the number one thing that I want to see out of Texas A&M. He's going to be great this year. He's got a shot at winning the Heisman, maybe, if he performs like he did last year, but even better. I want to see the continued development of Marcel Reed. That's number one for me for Texas A&M. I think offensive line, great. I think offensive line and the depth and the depth that A&M has presented now is great. First year under Mike Elko, they had some depth issues. I think second year, a lot better. I think going into year 3, their depth is pretty strong. I'm not worried about the total talent this team has because they have some depth. Honestly, they are pretty, spoiler alert, yeah, I've been looking at them during their practices and then their spring so far. I think conference standing projection wise, spoiler alert, for late June, early July, they're probably at least top 5 or 6 in my conference standing projections. A&M is, because of how well the team is built. And I think they are built. I think number 1 is Marcel Reed, the development there. I think number 2 is play calling. I think that's another. I think number 2 and 3 is really play calling, honestly. Number 2, they lose Colin Klein to Kansas State. Holman Wiggins is now the offensive coordinator and primary play caller for the Texas A&M Aggies in 2026. What's that going to look like? And how is his play calling going to differ from Colin Klein's? Is it going to be different, or is it going to be around the same? What's going to happen there? I think I want to see how their offense is going to look preparation-wise and game plan-wise around Holman Wiggins during the spring as they head in to 2026 and in the fall. So Holman Wiggins, I want to see what their offense is going to look like under him. That's the number 2 thing I want to see. And the final thing I want to see from Texas A&M is, and this is just me and how I think about it, is they also lost Jay Bateman from going to Kentucky. Jay Bateman went to Kentucky. He is no longer the DC at Texas A&M, so they lost both coordinators, had to replace both of them. Lyle Hemphill, he was the associate head coach for the Aggies last year on defense. He is now the full-time defensive coordinator and primary play caller for the defense. So Lyle Hemphill, the defensive coordinator for the Aggies, heading into 2026. I want to see what the defense is going to look like under him during the spring as they adjust and get ready for 2026. That's the third and final thing that I want to see during the spring for Texas A&M. So a little bit different last year. I know last year I saw about the wide receivers and the key position groups for them. I think this year it's an overall coaching-wise and the development of Marcel Reed. I think it's a little bit different for Texas A&M for me this year in terms of last year. I want to see, number 1, the development of Marcel Reed and how, if he can go even further as one of the best quarterbacks in the conference. So that's number 1 for me. Number 2, Holman Wiggins, what's the offense going to look like under him? And number 3, what's the defense going to look like under Lyle Hemphill as defensive coordinator there? Those are really the 3 things that I want to see from Texas A&M. I think Texas A&M can be one of the best teams in the conference coming up in 2026. I do mean that. We're just going to have to see what happens with them overall during the spring. We are going to have their spring results on them within the next few weeks. Their spring game is April 18th. I'm kind of curious to see how they're going to be, honestly, especially in how they rebound and how they gear up under the third year of Mike Elko, because I am really high on Mike Elko as a head coach there. I'm high on A&M. And I think A&M's got a shot to be a really good team, but I'm curious to see schedule-wise and everything, how everything's going to lay out for them in 2026. So that's our spring outlook on Texas A&M and what we want to see from them during the spring as they head into the fall in 2026. That was Georgia, Texas, Oklahoma, and Texas A&M spring outlooks. Guys, we are out of time. Guys, a big thank you for taking some time out of your Thursday to just sit back, watch, and listen to some college football coverage presented by me. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like each episode, leave comments down below. Spotify, Podbean, and Apple. All you got to do is just share around with others and follow on there as well. Just catch us on True Voice Digital as well. Each episode will be on there as well. Just tune in to there and tune into the other shows on True Voice Digital as well. Great content, and it's faith-based and inspired faith content as well. True Voice Digital there. Guys, catch them there. Catch me there. Also, X, Instagram, and TikTok at Pigskin_Frenzy. Follow a lot of the pages there. You're going to get episode updates and news and highlights from college football and wild takes from the prodigy of college football, me as well. Then there's the website, www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. Guys, a huge thank you once again. We cannot do this show without you guys. Also, we cannot do this show without our Lord and Savior. We praise the Lord. We praise Jesus for this show, because without him, we would not be in college football media. We give him all the glory and all the praise. We will be back on Tuesday with an all ACC spring outlook on tap. Man, cannot wait for that. We have all ACC. We have Miami, Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech, and Wake Forest. That's who we have on tap for Tuesdays for spring outlooks. Miami, Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech, and Wake Forest. Coming up on Tuesday with our all ACC slate spring outlook. So until Tuesday's edition of Pigskin Frenzy, I'm Joel Norris signing off. We hope you have a great weekend. For everybody out there, until Tuesday, please and always, we're praying for you all. Stay the course.